Well, hello, you guys. Looks like I muted myself. Oh well. Okay. So today I thought that I'd hop on and just share with you something that I've started learning more about, mostly through a friend of mine. Her name is Kaylee. She helps me with some things, and she's also one of my amazing clients. And so we were talking about um, I geek out about stuff like attachment styles, trauma responses, neuroplasticity, excuse me, and all the things our brains do because we're so resilient, right? And my friend Kaylee and I were talking about attachment styles, and she mentioned to me that, when we talk about trauma responses, and when we think about trauma responses, we think about the ways in which our bodies default um, to staying alive or surviving or feeling safe. And so we were talking about the trauma response known as fawning. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of fight, flight, freeze, and then fawning. And so what does that actually mean? Well, when you are in a fight response, you're getting aggressive and you're actually combating what you're perceiving as the threat. When you're in flight, you're fleeing from it. When you're in freeze, that's almost like your brain's stalling tactic, going, okay, let's just stop, see what happens so that we can make a better decision. And then fawning, another way of describing fawning is called appeasing. Um, you know, um, and later in life, or as we grow up and as fawning becomes our default survival strategy, or that response becomes second nature or like our knee-jerk reaction to stuff, um, fawning turns into or starts to look a lot like people pleasing. And so if you grew up in a home, or if you lived in an environment that was extremely chaotic and unpredictable, if you over time started to learn that you could impact other people's behavior, that you could influence their choices, that you could kind of turn down the volume on the chaos, if you like, then that is an example of a fawn trauma response. And so what happens is that as we grow up as children, if we have to turn to fawning to feel safe over and over and over and over again, then fawning becomes almost like our default survival setting. And so it starts to become a behavior pattern in our adult relationships, even when our safety or our survival is not at stake. And so if you are not sure, if you kind of categorize, or if people pleasing is an issue for you, then here are a couple of things that you can look out for. Number one, do you find yourself regularly ignoring your own needs so that you can tend to the needs of other people? Number two, do you find yourself feeling very responsible for how someone feels? And so this is one that I noticed in my own life, that really started to get my attention in my own life. I noticed it in my marriage. I noticed it in my relationship with my children. And I noticed it in relationships, excuse me, with friendships, or even my work relationships. Was, you're feeling sad or upset. I need to fix this. And so I need to make adjustments to myself. I need to change my plans. I need to abandon my needs so that I can make sure that you feel safe, so that you feel happy. Because when you're safe and happy and content, then I feel safe, right? Then I don't feel as threatened. Another thing, I'm sorry, I've got something in my throat today. Another thing to look out for when it comes to people pleasing is to pretend that you don't have any needs, or to ignore them completely, in a relationship, so that the other person can always get what they want. And so, how does this impact? What does this mean for us in life and business? This FAWN trauma response. Well, what we need to acknowledge is that when we were younger, the fact that we were able to subconsciously figure out a way to stay safe that is quite ingenuitive, right? It's quite resourceful, fawning. We need to acknowledge that's like, wow, I had to do some things to make it and I had to survive. And thank heavens I did, right? Because that helped me get through that. But we also need to acknowledge that fawning or people pleasing or resorting to people pleasers tactics is not helpful or healthy in everyday life and in in pretty much all of our relationships. And so fawning or people pleasing is very detrimental to your relationship with your children. Fawning or people pleasing is extremely detrimental to your marriage. Fawning or people pleasing is going to be very detrimental to your professional life because you are going to be taking way too much responsibility and you're going to be engaging in controlling or manipulative behaviors in order to stay safe. And what we really need in everyday life is for all of us to take responsibility for our own feelings, for our own thoughts, for our own actions, for our own choices, and give other people the freedom to do that. And so here's the thing. Okay, this is my life experience. It may not be yours, but might as well share it. When we spend our entire life on the lookout for the ways in which we need to take care of other people, the ways when we're constantly scanning our relationships or our environment, and our brains are constantly looking for elements in other people's lives that we can take control of or that we can influence, right? So that we can stay safe, then the one thing that we should be taking control of, and the one thing that we have been, I feel like commissioned by God to take care of, the thing that we can and should have complete control of, which is ourselves, does not get taken care of. And what fawning or people pleasing actually teaches us is that I can only be safe and happy if you are safe and happy. Just think about the implications of that. If you need to, at all times, control every single person around you to feel safe and happy, then it is very likely that you will never feel safe and happy and that you will be dealing with at any given time an enormous amount of anxiety. But when you can get to a place where you feel safe and happy within yourself and that you don't need the environment to be adjusted because you are doing such a great job of taking care of your own internal environment, that you're doing such a great job of adjusting, monitoring, managing yourself, that it doesn't even matter what other people think. It doesn't even matter what other people feel. It doesn't even matter what other people do, that you feel in your power to change your life or live your life anyway. That's the stuff. That is us living in our full human potential. And so a lot of the times when we are in business, entrepreneurship specifically, if we don't believe, or if we are out of practice of being in control of our own selves, of our own thoughts, of our own emotions, of our own actions, when we are not completely convinced that I'm responsible for my choices and that I need to take responsibility for the outcomes of my choices, they will start to blame other people when things don't work out the way that we want them to. And when we're blaming other people, we can't learn. When we're blaming other people, we can't grow, we can't change, we can't adjust. We sacrifice our ability to be resilient when we're always trying to change and grow and manage other people. Isn't that amazing? I mean, it's not great, but what I love about being human and what I love about, the human mind and what we have the ability to do is that we can adjust, we can change, we can learn a new way of being. And so, what a FAWN trauma response that becomes how you show up in your relationships, subconsciously, is only that way because of how often you had to default and how emotionally charged your life situations were. And so the good news is that you can learn new relationship habits. You can learn a new way of showing up in your relationships. You can resolve the things that you experienced in childhood. And by resolve, I don't mean wipe it all away and ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist, but you can diminish the effect that it has on your life because you're so amazing. Because you're such an amazing human. And so if you want to learn a new way of showing up, if you want to be on that journey, if you are listening to me going, okay, I am showing up in my FAWN trauma response conditioning. I'm showing up habitually like I needed to show up for myself when I was little. If that's you, I'd like to invite you to join me and a couple of other awesome ladies doing a book study on the book that I wrote called The Heart-Centered Woman's Guide to Healthy Boundaries. I'd love for you to join us. We are studying the book that I wrote. We are going over a study guide on it together, and we are just talking about real life and how, what it means, what the content of the book means for our lives. And so there's a link to join the group that study is housed in the description of this video. And then if you're ready to take a deep dive into this area of life, healthy boundaries, dealing with your people pleasing, dealing with the people, understanding how your people pleasing is showing up in your motherhood, in your marriage, in your other relationships, in your business endeavors as an entrepreneur. And if you're wanting to diminish, right, we can't wipe it away, we can't undo the past. But if your trauma or if your past or your people pleasing is currently taking up this much space, look at the screen, in your life, and you'd like it to take up this much space or have this much impact on what's happening in the rest of your life, then the Heart-Centered and Healthy Boundaries Masterclass might be for you. Probably is for you. Weekly coaching, online content, an incredible community, and basically someone to walk with you through this stuff. And so one thing I know to be for sure is that us human beings, ironically and very counterintuitively, can only really change. Like for real change, not for pretend or temporary change. We can only really begin the journey of transformation when we love, accept unconditionally, and step back from judgment from the things about ourselves that we don't like or need to change. It's really only when we love ourselves unconditionally or experience being loved unconditionally can we surrender to the process of change and growth in our lives. And so the Heart-Centered and Healthy Boundaries Masterclass, aside from the content and the teaching and the coaching and me walking alongside you as you examine all the ways people pleasing is impacting your life and what to do about it, it really is creating a safe, supportive, non-judgmental, loving environment where it is okay for you to make changes and experience transformation. So I'd love for you to join that. Please feel free to comment below. Hey, I'd like more information about the masterclass. For the next 2 weeks, I'm enrolling people at half price. And after that, the prices are going to go up because we're going to do a beta group. And so if you want to be part of the beta group, you can get in at half price. And it's going to be awesome. Anyway, I am heading off. And I hope that you're having an incredible day. As always, if you ever need anything, if you want to chat about anything, please hit the comments. Feel free to slide into my DMs, I guess. Usually I don't mind answering them if they're appropriate. And so you're welcome to just, let's make friends. Let's begin a relationship. I'm always here to help and to share the bread with you that has fed me. All right, you guys, I hope that you have an incredible day, and I will see you again this time tomorrow. Goodbye.